Hello, everyone, and after 23 episodes and a big draft special, we have finally come to the end. Welcome to episode 24, the season finale of Into the Stands. As always, I'm Colin, joined here by Chris and Robbie. And for today, obviously, the main number one story we're going to get into is the NBA playoffs, because I think we can all agree that's the biggest story going on in sports right now. And I think the number one thing we got to start off with is this is kind of a debate that's been raging on for a little while. Who was going to be a 2023 NBA MVP? And the voters just came to the decision that they gave it to Joel Embiid of the Philadelphia 76ers over the other two finalists, Nikola Jokic and Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I fully support this award going to Embiid because, Jokic, people will argue that he may have been more valuable to the Nuggets, obviously going to the number one seed. But I just did not see Nikola Jokic as a three-time MVP award winner. I mean, you're looking at him being the first player to do that in nearly 40 years. And for me personally, I don't think that you deserve that award unless you're NBA champion. You're undisputably one of the greatest players to ever play the game. And I'm not sure if I put Nikola Jokic in that category right now. Sure, the Nuggets, they have a 2-0 lead over the Phoenix Suns. They're looking pretty impressive right now. But I still have to wait and see Jokic do more in the postseason in order for me to really put him in that class. So I feel that Joel Embiid getting that award, I'm fully in support of that because, Embiid's a guy who really worked through a lot of adversity, right? He was drafted in 2014. He faced two separate injuries, finally getting to play. And he really was kind of the main prize that came from that entire Philadelphia 76ers process rebuild. So seeing him along with James Harden, I think it's been really fun to watch. I think just his personality, because he's one of the more energetic players in the game. He's had a career best year. Now, obviously, they're tied in that series with the Boston Celtics, which we'll get into later. But I have to say, all around, I'm happy for Embiid. I think it's good for basketball. We saw he's the first Sixers player to win this since Allen Iverson. And, previously, until Jokic won his MVP a couple of years back, centers had not won this award for about 20 years. So now we're starting to see centers kind of come back into prominence in the NBA. So I'll move it around to you guys now. What do you think about Embiid getting this award?
Yeah, well, again, I really didn't feel like seeing Nikola Jokic win it for the third year in a row. Joel Embiid is great. He's the cornerstone of that franchise in Philadelphia, right? He's a great shooter too, for a center, right? He does it all, and even in the playoffs, right, helping this team now as they're tied with the Celtics 1-1 in that series, and one of the probably definitely one of two of the great series in this conference semifinals. Up there with that, I think the Warriors Lakers series is phenomenal as well. But I think it's phenomenal for Embiid, and I think we kind of expected it, right? Definitely wasn't Jason Tatum, although he had a great year as well. But I think I even remembered talking about this a few weeks ago that I thought Embiid was going to end up pulling it off.
Yeah, it's a weird situation, I mean, everyone's thought, oh my God, Jokic is going to do it again. And at the end of the day, it's a very reasonable way for the streak to end. I think Joel Embiid has had a phenomenal season. Of course, in the beginning of the year, we all gave our MVP predictions. None of us were really close. I think the closest has to be, I'm going to give it to Chris because he said Jason Tatum, and he had a very good season. Mine was Luka, Colin,
Zion and John Morant.
Yeah, and we're just going to stop it there. But, right now, Joel Embiid, very deserving winner. Phenomenal talent. I thought with Jokic and the Nuggets playing the way that they've been, being number one seed and just walking through the West in a way, I feel like Joel Embiid. I thought Jokic had a better chance to win it this year for the way the Nuggets record was, but at the same time, Joel Embiid's season, he deserves it. Some thought he was the third best player in the finals voting, but at the end of the day, Joel Embiid is your MVP. A true multi-level scorer and well-deserving MVP for sure. But we'll dive into the playoffs now. And I think the best way to start this is beginning with the New York Knicks. Now, I have a lot to say about the Knicks, but I don't think I should start at this. I think we should start with the guys who've watched the series a little bit more than me and can probably speak about this a little bit more before I go into mini commentary for you guys. Colin, we'll start with you. The Knicks series with Cleveland gave you a lot of energy and excitement toward what the Knicks can do in the playoffs. And then you've watched the two games in Miami, and you lost game one. And then playing a team that didn't have Jimmy Butler, only barely scraping away with a win. How do you feel about that? It's a very interesting situation.
what the most bizarre part too about that game 2 victory is that was really kind of the first game where you saw Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle all kind of come into their own together. I think they all had about 20, 25 points in that win. So seeing that happen and then the Heat still make that competitive a game, I think it's just truly a testament to that Heat team. Look, I remember when we were doing our NBA playoff predictions, this is coming right after the Hawks beat them in the playing game. And we all kind of, or at least you two, said that you felt the Toronto Raptors were going to beat the Heat in that play-in tournament game. And it just kind of just a testament to their season because everyone kind of wrote this team off. No one thought the Miami Heat would be here right now. But listen, they are a very well-coached team. Erik Spoelstra, I'd still argue, one of the best coaches in the NBA. He's had championship experience. He's obviously worked with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, all those great players. So seeing, that team be well coached is not a big surprise at all. What is a surprise, however, is the players who are stepping up and producing. We're seeing guys like Gabe Vincent. We're seeing Caleb Martin. We're seeing Max Strus, Duncan Robinson. These guys are players who the normal NBA fan would not really be familiar with, yet they are putting in phenomenal performances. And of course, we cannot talk about the Miami Heat without talking about Jimmy Butler. The dude is insane in the playoffs. He's really one of those rare players who is, I'd say, definitely, undoubtedly, a far better player in the postseason than in the regular season. That is something that's really rare to find, especially for a guy that level, because I don't believe that Jimmy Butler was an all-star this year. I don't think he got voted as one. So, against the Milwaukee Bucks, absolute dominant performance, dropping 56 points in a playoff game. Really just a team who we thought was, one of the favorites to go to the finals, maybe win the championship. Being able to beat them in 5 games is phenomenally impressive. You look at the rest of the roster, you got Kyle Lowry, who's getting up there in age. You have Bam Adebayo, who, yes, he's a solid player, but, maybe there's still a little bit more to be desired in his game. Tyler Hero going out for the entire year, too. So, looking at the Miami Heat, they're a scrappy team. They're going to give the Knicks a very hard series. But once again, like I said before, the Knicks should still win this series. Obviously, losing a game in the Garden in game 1 was not ideal. That was a game where, you obviously still didn't have Julius Randle. There were rumors that Jalen Brunson was a little banged up. Of course, Jimmy Butler got banged up for the Heat too. But going back to Miami, if you're the New York Knicks, you have to at least win one of those games. You can't lose both games in Miami or else the series is basically over. So I expect Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett to kind of build off that momentum. And I really want to talk about RJ Barrett here, because he's a guy who a lot of the fan base was kind of criticizing for most of the year, throwing to the side, but he is putting some pretty good performances so far in this postseason. And I have to say, I think for Knicks fans, that's kind of the guy you're looking forward to be like your future, obviously drafting him with the 3rd overall pick in 2019. So seeing RJ Barrett really come into his own for the Knicks, I'm sure is a very encouraging sign. Jalen Brunson, of course, he's going to be kind of relied on as a closer. This team has got to continue to be the leader, the catalyst. Julius Randle, I mean, he's kind of the guy who you're forgetting about, right? Because really that game 2 against Miami, that was probably the best game we saw Julius Randle play in his entire playoff career. It's crazy to say that because the guy's a multi-time all-star, but he hasn't really had a lot of great postseason performances. So if you can get Julius Randle playing the way he did in the regular season, along with those other 2 guys playing at a high level, they should easily win this series. Once again, though, you never know in Miami, but that's the way I kind of see the series right now. But Chris, obviously, you're the Knicks fan. Take it away.
Well, yeah, obviously, I think what we're learning, as you mentioned, is maybe this Heat victory against the Bucks wasn't a fluke, right? Because I believe wasn't he healthy for most of the game?
He was hurt for game 2. He came back later
right,
on in the
exactly,
series.
and of course, the whole team didn't play at their best in Milwaukee, but still, I think it surely wasn't a fluke. I think honestly, this series might go to 7 between the Heat and the Knicks. I really think it is. I don't know. I mean, going back to Miami, I think they'll definitely take a game, the Heat. But yeah, the Knicks need to take at least one. It's just been a phenomenal effort for the Knicks. I mean, beating the Cavs in 5, the reverse of your pick, Robbie, right?
Yes, it was.
Right, and all right, the Cavs, a team that are still young, but right, put all the chips in to get Donovan Mitchell. The Knicks almost did that, but the Knicks have for all these years they've really stayed pat. Right, stay patient, and
it really turned out Jalen Brunson might have been the better choice.
Exactly.
Who would have thought that?
Because the Knicks are really valuing this chemistry, and then going and getting a guy like Josh Hart, who is, one of the best pieces on this team, right? And had that chemistry with Jalen Brunson. I might get a Jalen Brunson jersey. I might have to. He's just been so good. He's awesome. Great personality too. Really good guy. Just a really fun team, and it really, I've always been a critic of what the Nets did, right? And I think a lot of people are what the Nets did going to get after Durant and Kyrie. The Knicks, honestly, I don't think it's difficult or a hot take to say that the Knicks went a completely better direction than the Nets did.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, it's insane, right? I mean, who would have thought? And of course, I mean, I think any Knicks fan would have rather gone that direction to see Durant and Kyrie play, but then all the mess, the whole mess and everything that came
Trust the
afterwards.
process.
Exactly. And it's hard to do that a lot. It's hard to do that in a lot of sports, to just trust the process, especially when it doesn't work for your teams. Sometimes it takes a while, but for the Knicks, it's worked out fairly quickly. And we'll see where they go moving forward. But yeah, RJ Barrett coming into his own, right? That has really helped this team. I think that's why they're here, because they are getting those performances from Brunson and Randall. But now that you throw RJ into the mix, that's really that's the catalyst. That's what's really that's he's really he's really the catalyst of this team. He's the reason they're flying on all cylinders.
I mean, you mentioned my pick not working out very well with
Okay.
the Cavs flipping
Yeah,
the script
yeah.
and kind of not. I'm not gonna say they bottled that series, but I mean Donovan Mitchell went out of his mind. He went out of his mind, just no one wanted to help the man. But the Knicks, you proved me wrong in one series. How the heck is this series 1-1? So here's my reason for this. Jimmy Butler, very good at basketball.
Yeah.
It's really I think they're kind of similar to Cleveland in one aspect, that they have one superstar and just a bunch of I thought Cleveland was a more talented squad. You have Darius Garland. You have all their players. I think the Knicks are I've said stuff to you guys before, and I'll word it like this. I think the Knicks are playing down to Miami. And I think game 1 was your wake-up call, saying Miami, they're not going to fool around. This is Miami. They're an underseeded team. Not underseeded. They're
Really
lower seed.
Yeah, I gotta say, I
Yeah, no,
disagree.
you're absolutely right. But I think the Knicks playing the way they did in game 2 is more concerning than some may think, because Jimmy Butler did not play in that game, and Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin went crazy for not statistically. If you want to talk about a guy going crazy, you're probably thinking about I don't know, Steph Curry dropping 50 in game 7 against the Kings. Caleb Martin and Gabe Vincent dropped 20 plus, and they don't really do much on the Heat. You're talking about Gabe Vincent. He's gone off both games in that series so far. So if I'm the Knicks, I should be more concerned that their depth is playing to their potential.
I think that's exactly what we're saying.
But at the same time, if you are the Knicks
team,
you have the high-end talent. You have the squad that can go. I said before discussions in these guys that the Knicks, I don't know. I think they're a very puzzling team to me. I mean, but I don't know. I mean, you brought up Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell. I mean, Jalen Brunson is the chemistry on the money. I think it's the right move for you guys. It's the position you needed. You have the scheme for it. Jalen Brunson, right pick. Value? Yeah, it's fair. But if you go down 3-1 to Miami, the Knicks fans will be calling for heads, because Miami is worse than the Knicks. I'm shocked Milwaukee isn't. Milwaukee fans aren't.
Well, you should have seen Twitter. That was.
Oh, I did.
What was going on there?
But, and then, but here's the difference. And this is what I've brought up to you guys before. I thought the Knicks had fans, parading around 7th Avenue going up 3-1.
You're excited.
Really?
That's Knicks fans.
Really?
You're excited.
I would not name it. I
want to say a piece on that. Because
okay, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Listen, the New York Knicks are far different from any other New York teams. I get when people think that Yankees fans are obnoxious, right? Because the Yankees have all those history of championships and all that. Even my New York Giants, right? Listen, we've had experiences of winning too. But the New York Knicks, people in New York love basketball. That is one of the most passionate cities you'll ever see in the world for basketball. People across the entire city, they love the sport. But the Knicks have just not been very good for such a long time. And I think that seeing the Knicks finally ascend to this level, we saw it a little bit in 2021 again, that Hawks series, with the comments towards Trae Young. I think that just this fan base has been so starved for success that the second they get it, they get very excited. They're a very passionate fan base. And I'd argue that there's no better fan base in the sport than the New York Knicks. I think that just showing the energy that they bring, obviously the energy in the Garden. I'd say that, I know what you're going to say. I think that you don't like the showboat, or you don't like all of that, but I'd say that I feel like it's different. Say, for example, if it was Golden State Warriors fans who are doing this, obviously, because they have all that experience with winning. But the Knicks, it's a different story. They're kind of an underdog ragtag team. So I have no issue with it. I mean, I get why some other fans are maybe off-putting, but I would just chalk it up to the Knicks being one of the most passionate and probably the best fan base in the sport.
Listen, talk about passion. I mean, you guys went full send, and they represented very well. Like, I could not talk about another franchise getting more support throughout the playoffs than the New York Knicks. Sacramento would be my second. You saw what Sacramento was like?
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
I mean, that series with the Warriors, we'll go into that later. But my problem is the arrogance is my problem.
Arrogance.
Because, I mean, Knicks fans think, oh my God, we're going to walk through Miami. Knicks in 4. No, I've seen it before. Twitter. Shout out to Twitter for no reason at all.
First of all, okay. Exactly.
But you see,
listen.
But
Robbie,
my problem is very simple with this. If y'all want to be that arrogant,
the only fan base I find that is arrogant, because I remember back during that series, I remember back when I was sitting in the ALDS for Yankees Guardians Game 5, the Yankee Stadium started chanting, and we won Houston. That's arrogant. That is arrogant.
That was arrogant.
New York Knicks fans, a couple of Knicks fans on Twitter, I think every single fan base does that. I wouldn't call them an arrogant fan base. I would just say they're passionate. I think there's a big difference between that. I've seen arrogance for the Yankee fans in a lot of areas. I don't know if I call the Knicks arrogant. I would just say that they're so deprived that they're just looking to hopefully win it. But
you want to talk about passion? How the hell you want to talk about passion and lose game 1 to the Heat?
Okay.
I mean, okay. At the end of the day, the support the Knicks get. Here's how I'll word it before we go on to another series. This is your wake-up call. This is the moment that where you go from the highs to back to where Knicks fans should be at stable, because y'all went out and lost a game that you should have won. You lost the game that you should have won.
So you barely won a game
that didn't have Jimmy Butler.
Okay.
You barely beat a team that was carried by Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin. They played Jimmy Butler though.
Listen,
and they have Giannis for 2 games.
First of all, it's most of what you see on Twitter. There's tons of idiots on Twitter, all over Twitter. You don't know who these people are.
You should see
these
Mets
people
fans.
Might not even be Knicks fans. They're just like random users on Twitter, casual fans. Probably only seen 1 game in their lives. Second, most of the fans that you see the videos of being arrogant they're probably just joking around, or they're actually confident for once in their lives. Because, of course, they've never had a chance to, see their teams see their team actually have a chance to move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't understand what the problem is like in this for you. I don't. I mean, what? So what about in Boston and Philadelphia with all the things they do?
Okay.
I mean, you want to talk about listen,
Philadelphia.
Right, okay.
That's a phenomenal example. I will give you credit. That's a phenomenal example.
I mean, Boston too, and I mean. LA, I know after they won, it was like right in the middle of the pandemic. They're going crazy outside of Staples Center after they won the championship. I mean, it's and even bringing up Yankee fans, right? I understand there's a lot of like casual. The Yankee fan base, New York fan base, are so huge that another point to argue against yours. I don't think it's fair to say, oh, Knicks fans are arrogant. New York fans New York has such a huge fan base. Half of the Yankee, I always say, the Yankee fan base is one of the most knowledgeable fan bases in baseball. Yet half of them are little kids who are so spoiled and always bring up the 27 rings. It's you can't come after an entire fan base because it's so huge, and there's so many phenomenal fans who just want to see their teams win and for once have a little confidence and just want to cheer for their teams. And then there's a bunch of jerks. So that's in every sport, in every single team, and every single team's fans. Even those teams that we say have no fan bases, like the Rays. I'm sure there are a couple of asshole jerk Rays fans out there. Jerk Rays fans out there. Okay. Sorry, excuse my language. But yeah, exactly. Right?
I mean, you're not wrong.
So
but
I don't understand why you're coming after fans.
My problem is you can't be that arrogant. How many series have the Knicks won since Carmelo Anthony?
It doesn't matter. What's the
what y'all talking for?
Like Carmelo Anthony was that big. They won like 1 series of Carmelo Anthony when he was there.
Was it 1? I thought it was 3.
But right, what does it matter? What does it matter?
I'm just saying.
If anything, it proves that we don't win, and we're happy that we're winning for once, possibly.
You want to go that route?
What route is there to go? I mean, you're the one bringing this up.
I mean, if you want to go that route, I think we should move on to another team before this gets out of hand. You agree? Let's move on.
Okay.
Let's talk about Sacramento and the Warriors. I feel like that's a fair argument next. Sacramento. I have a little thing on Sacramento. Really? Y'all went. I mean, you want to say Sacramento didn't go out down without a fight? Game 7? I don't know what to say to that. Stephen Curry dropped 50. The game was almost a blowout. The Kings, phenomenal fight in the first 6 games of that series.
They were winning at halftime in Game 7.
They were winning at halftime in Game 7. I was just looking at the final score. But the Kings are going in the right direction. Are they pieces away? Absolutely. But this is the year that they start ascending to relevance. You are the Kings. You're ascending to relevance. Now you have to build off that. And if their GM does it right in the offseason, I think we come back here next year, maybe saying the Kings win their first round series next year. But they've gotten to probably higher than expected this season. I think they overachieved a little bit, record and standing wise. Now they were my Western Conference finalists for me. But I still think they might be maybe pieces away. De'Aaron Fox, I cannot say enough good things about De'Aaron Fox. But you're going to need someone else to really put yourself over the top. I mean, Sabonis is all right. Harrison Barnes, no. But I feel like they're like a piece or two away before becoming really more relevant in the West. Do you guys agree with me on that?
I mean, yeah. I mean, one thing that's like, I mean, really the craziest part about this all is you remember that game where Harrison Barnes missed the game winner.
Oh
if that shot goes in, we're looking at a Canes-Lakers series right now. So that's just really a testament to the Canes so far. Look, obviously, I can't fault them for Stephen Curry having one of the greatest performances in NBA playoff history in a Game 7, the greatest performance in a Game 7 in the NBA playoff history. I cannot fault them for that. Because I think Steph Curry is now we're starting to see a little bit more debates about it. So I actually kind of want to get your guys' take on this. People are now saying that win cemented Curry as the greatest point guard of all time, undoubtedly over Magic Johnson. Do we agree with that, or
wait, what was the question?
It's not?
Do we think that win cemented Curry is the greatest point guard of all time over Magic Johnson? Because that is what a lot of people are saying as a result of this game.
I don't know if I would agree, but I don't disagree. I don't disagree with making that argument.
Yeah, no,
that's been a little bit more of a popular argument nowadays. But besides the point, obviously,
he got the championships.
He has the championships, and also the big argument I've seen is how he kind of changed the game, the way the game's played.
Yeah,
but Sacramento, going back to them, cannot be too mad at them. Obviously, just this is a year where they won the division when everyone thought they were undoubtedly going to come in last place, because obviously you're playing in a division with Phoenix, you're playing with the Clippers, you're playing with all of these great teams. So seeing them have that year, I think you just need to build on it. Mike Brown, obviously, is a coach who I love just in his first year winning Coach of the Year. He's the right man for that organization. I think sticking with that passionate fan base, De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, get built around that core. Maybe, I'm not sure what their cap situation is looking like. Maybe you can try to get another big piece maybe on the trade market, free agent market. But Sacramento showed their heads up high. Great season. Listen, and there's no shame in losing to the Golden State Warriors. Look, since 2015, when the Warriors won their first championship, the Warriors have not lost a single Western Conference series. Think about that right now. Not lost a single Western Conference series, because all the losses they had came in the finals, or they just didn't make the playoffs. So cannot be mad at them. Phenomenal season. But Warriors, Lakers, we'll talk about that after this. Looking forward to see how that plays out over the next course of the games.
Right, and yeah, I think my prediction was actually right. I think I said Warriors in 7.
Only one.
Did
you predict?
I'd say it took Warriors in 6.
Oh, you said Warriors. I thought one of you said the Kings, but I think you're both.
I knew it was going to be a pretty tough series. I knew, the Warriors obviously with the experience, and the Kings obviously being that team that shocked the world. I mean, I remember in baseball a few years ago, the Giants and Dodgers NLDS was a perfect example of that one team, the Giants, who shocked everyone, went to number 1 seed in baseball, and then the Dodgers, who had the experience. I think the Dodgers were easily going to win that. I had them doing that. So I think this is just that,
that comparison right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just in every sport. I think you can have like that. There's always an example of a young team that shocks the world, has a high seed, and then a lower seed but has the experience. And, obviously they match up into a good series, even though you would probably before the season predict the more experienced team to run away with it. So there's just plenty of examples of that, and then that was just another one. But I guess what else is there?
You want to talk about Lakers?
Yeah, I mean, the game yesterday, I'm pretty sure the Lakers won that, right? It was close at the end there.
They did, yes. Lakers won that game. We saw, obviously, Jordan Poole was left wide open on a few shots, but he was not able to make that, because the Lakers had a strategy where they double-teamed Steph Curry, and obviously that's the way to go. But this series will be very competitive. I think this is a series that we can see go 6-7 games. I think the Lakers win, though. I think they do, because I just feel that Golden State, we kind of felt that Golden State was going to beat Sacramento, but this series, I think, really opened some eyes to the fact that the Warriors do have some flaws. And it's really hard to bet against LeBron James. It just is. And we've seen how the Lakers, since the trade deadline, have had the best record in basketball. So if you want to ask me personally, I think the Lakers take this series, but it is going to be a very good, great series. I mean, we're looking at two of the greatest players to ever do it, LeBron James and Stephen Curry. LeBron at age 38, Steph at age 35, and yet here they still are, back again for another battle. It's been so fun to watch as a fan, but Anthony Davis is the big factor in this because the Warriors really don't have a body down low. I mean, Kevon Looney, but
Draymond, I guess.
I mean, yeah, but against Anthony Davis in the post, I know Draymond Green obviously what he brings to the table, being a leader, defensive ability, but I think that Anthony Davis is really the X factor here. He needs to come up and show out. Obviously, the Lakers also have defenders such as Jared Vanderbilt. They also got D'Angelo Russell. Maybe he can come through and give a couple good scoring efforts. Austin Reeves. I just feel the Lakers are kind of better equipped for this series than the Lakers. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, the Warriors could still easily win because they have the championship experience, but I say LeBron gets revenge on all those finals losses to the Warriors here.
I like the series as well. First of all, Memphis. I'll just say one quick brief things on the house. Dylan Brooks. That's all I'm gonna say. But I think that's all you really can say. I mean, the whole drama throughout the series. I don't really know how to describe it. I really don't think there's words in the English dictionary that can really describe this series at all with one word. So, Lakers, I did pick them. At least I got one pick right. I think, did you pick them as well?
Oh no, actually I
no, because you both picked Memphis. I remember that. And I got some text saying like, how did you pick the Lakers? That's why.
I picked them in losing at 7 though.
Yeah, you did say 7. I will give you that. But not going to the series. I don't know. My pick here is not even in this round, so I think this is a more fresh pick for me. I got one of the two teams in this round. I want to pick the Lakers. Stephen Curry. Do they really have someone who can defend Curry? D'Angelo Russell?
It's tough, but they were able to do it in game 1 with the double team strategy.
That's true. So, the game's tonight. Game 2 is tonight, 9 p.m. On the day we're filming this. I think this series goes to 1-1. I really do.
Yeah.
I think
it's in Golden State.
It's in Golden State. I think Steve Kerr too good of a coach to not adjust anything in this series. Remember last series they went 2-0 down and then went out and won. What was it? 4 of the next 5.
Yeah.
They won 4 or 5 when they needed to. I think they do go out at home. They have to win a game at home, or this series could get in major trouble very fast. I do think the Warriors win tonight. I'm gonna say by 10 points ish. When you have a team of Curry, Jordan Poole has to figure it out. What was that shot? You didn't. Yes, I agree with that. You didn't need to shoot from that far out. Is he trying to impress people?
Well, I think that's kind of the biggest knock on Jordan Poole. Really.
Yeah. I don't know. I just didn't like the shot personally. Chris, your quick thoughts on this before we move on to another series.
Yeah, well, I was actually watching a little bit of the game yesterday, and I thought it was right. Obviously, that game was very close at the end there, as you mentioned, and Jordan Poole was left open a lot. Yeah, I think easily the Warriors are going to win tonight. I cannot see them losing 2 at home, and then going to Staples Center and trying to come back down 2-0 and trying to win those 3. I think they're too experienced.
I think they're screwed if they have to go.
Yeah, if they lose today, I think the Lakers are going to wrap it up and then move on. But at the same time, I don't think it's going to happen. I think this one will go to 7.
Yeah. What other series do you guys want to discuss? Or do you want to discuss I don't know.
I think you can talk about the other two. I think we have time. Nuggets Suns as well as.
Let's go Nuggets Suns next. The Nuggets, I did predict them in my finals. I did have them winning it all. Remember that. And you guys all had the Suns in that series. I remember that, and you had the Suns going to the finals, right?
I had the Suns winning the finals.
You had the Suns winning the finals. Nuggets up 2-0. I do think the Suns will take at least one game take one of game 3 or 4. I think their roster is too loaded to not take a game before possible game 5. Right now, I think the Nuggets. They're the 1 seed for a reason, but I think the Suns are going to figure it out. They're going back to Phoenix, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I feel like playing at home, This is your chance to reset after a couple days off. I feel like the Suns are in a good situation where they can. I think if they take Game 3, I think if they lose Game 3, they're really it's over, done. I think game set match, games 1, 2, and 3 to the Nuggets. I think the Suns win Game 3. And then I think the Nuggets take Game 4 to make it 3-1. And maybe Kevin Durant pulls flips the script and takes 3 straight. But we'll find that out probably next week. But I think right now the Suns, this is your time to reset. I feel like they have too good of a squad to not take out possibly Game 3. Chris, your thoughts on Nuggets Suns?
Well, I also I had the Suns going to the finals and losing to the Bucks, but
I had the Bucks in there too. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, the first 2 games were in Denver, and the Nuggets won them fairly convincingly. But now the series shifts back to Phoenix, and this is gonna be a big statement game from the Suns. They need to prove that they need to prove Robbie wrong. They need to prove everyone else wrong. That's like the number one thing. That's the number one thing on their minds. Like, we got to prove Robbie basically wrong.
Yes. I think enough people have proved me wrong this season where, just to make me look bad.
My personal favorite was Devin Vassell.
Devin Vassell. That was a good one. And me just calling out the Spurs for no reason at all. That was.
Yeah, but I think the Nuggets might go and win this one. I mean, up 2-0, it's it's not, of course, I mean, it's not very difficult to blow a 2-0 series lead, but
we've seen it before. Yeah.
I don't know. I think the Nuggets are a talented team, and I mean, they're facing a great team as well, but yeah, I think I'm gonna say the Nuggets win this one.
One thing you guys didn't mention too, huge story here. Chris Paul is gonna miss games 3 to 5 with a groin injury.
Oh, great!
So that's a major blow. Now look, you'd have Cameron Payne going into the starting lineup, and Cameron Payne is a guy who Phoenix likes. He was on the bench during that finals run. Kind of a facilitator there. But listen, the Phoenix Suns have no bench, and it is a big problem. Now, I thought these guys could piece it together, but they haven't been able to do so far. However, I still think they should win the games in Phoenix. Obviously, I think that, it's tough to say, obviously, because, Jokic being an MVP, but you just look at that top-heavy talent with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul, if you can get him back. That is such a talented basketball team. But obviously, it's tough now, right? Because, the Nuggets are showing themselves to be that team that was number 1 seed. The one player I want to talk about here is Jamal Murray, because Jamal Murray is a guy who, if you remember very well, was phenomenal in that 2020 postseason in the bubble. He was a guy who I think really was the best player, at least the number 1 scorer on the team. He did more than really Jokic did. He was a guy who really was starting to establish himself as one of the top point guards in the league, but then obviously he got hurt. Now he's finally coming back into his own, and he's kind of showing out here in this postseason. And look, it's hard when obviously you're dealing with a 2-time MVP. When you're also dealing with Jamal Murray, it gets even harder. Trust me, I remember very well. I can recall back to the 2019 playoffs. Jamal Murray absolutely torched the San Antonio Spurs with DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge. This guy is a phenomenal postseason performer. But once again, if you're Kevin Durant, if you're Devin Booker, you need to win this series. I think you do, because you just need to just put what Phoenix did, putting all their chips to the table, getting Kevin Durant. I think it's a move you had to make, right? Because they were kind of lower in the conference, but with this core, if you're ever going to win a championship, if you're the Phoenix Suns in this window, you have to win it now. So obviously you need a big performances off the bench. You need Damian Lee. You need Bismack Biyombo. You need those guys to really step up and have huge games. I'm not sure if they can do it, but I do think Phoenix will win the next 2 games in Phoenix. They should. And we'll see what happens from there. But listen, I'm on the lookout here. This could have some upset potential, at least for my bracket. I think Denver can pull it off. There's a chance.
What's the other series?
Sixers Celtics.
Sixers Celtics. We'll talk about them real quick, and then we might as well just dive into the NFL draft, because we had that incredible stream. I'll talk about that in a second. Real quick, Celtics Sixers. What's the series at? You might as well start with
the series is tied at 1-1, and in game 1, Joel Embiid did miss the first game, but James Harden turned back the clock, scoring 45 points, going back to Houston. James Harden, and look, it was really great to see, because James Harden is obviously a guy who I think really should have won the championship in 2018 if it wasn't for Chris Paul getting injured. Oh, breaking news for Robbie Basil.
Breaking news, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, the Bucks have fired Mike Budenholzer.
Wow.
This was from 4 minutes ago. Budenholzer is out after losing to the Heat. Sorry to interrupt you on that. What's your immediate thoughts on this?
Listen, that was not something I was expecting you to say right now. Obviously people were criticizing for making some adjustments in that series against the Miami Heat, But obviously, he's a guy who just won a championship 2 years ago, right? I mean, crazy to see that. I remember my condolences also go out to his family because we heard that he lost a family member during that series as well. I don't know if that played a part into some of the. Obviously, it's tough to say, but my condolences go out to his family. But crazy to see. I mean, I think Milwaukee was just looking for someone to scapegoat there because the Miami Heat had one of the greatest upsets, or maybe I think the greatest number 8 upset over number 1 in NBA history because they were the first ever 8 seed to beat the 1 seed in 5 games. So really dominant performance from them. And listen, Mike Budenholzer made some questionable calls there at the end of that game 5. I can remember how he didn't use his timeouts. He did not make the right calls. So he had some lapses of judgment there, but it's crazy to see the Bucks fire the only coach who they won a championship with in the past 50 years. I mean, Chris.
Yeah, no, I did what you said. It's just that's. I mean, of course, yeah, as you said, they got to find someone to scapegoat. Of course, it was a difficult time for him and his family. So maybe they should have taken that into account, right? I think that's kind of. Right. I mean, it was. Then again, from the basketball standpoint, it was a very difficult postseason exit, and they had plans on going to winning another championship. But he was the one who won you your first. So I'm not sure.
I'll let Robbie
I'm not sure.
I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, I think it was. It's harsh. I think Milwaukee may have their eyes on somebody better, I guess. I think that's the only reason that you would do a move like this at the end of the day. If they have their eyes on someone that won't screw up like Budenholzer did to some eyes, I feel like that's the only reason you would do a move like this. I mean, I thought it was a very quick axing of Budenholzer, but it's an interesting move. Let's see. I'm interested to see what direction Milwaukee takes with their next head coach. I bet their search will begin probably very soon. And who knows, maybe by the end of the playoffs, we may know who the next head coach could be. But let's go back to Sixers and Celtics with Colin real quick.
So going back to James Harden, because I mentioned he dropped 45 points in game 1, turning back the clock. And it really shows you how he's kind of taking more of a facilitator role with the Sixers. Joel Embiid is kind of expected to go out there and be that main number 1 scorer. But James Harden obviously being a guy who has been really dominant in this postseason, kind of being more of an assist guy. But we've seen James Harden have the 45-point game. But then game 2, Joel Embiid came back. The Sixers blew him out. So this series, I think, is another one that's going to go deep. I think that both teams are very talented. The Celtics obviously were the team that went to the finals last year, and the Celtics have a history in this recent with the Sixers led by Embiid. They have a history of beating them in the playoffs pretty handily. So I said before the playoffs started, I predicted the Sixers to win this series, and I think they still might. I think there's a good chance of it. Because obviously you're looking at Joel Embiid. If James Harden can keep those performances, if he can keep playing like that, the old James Harden in 2018, because as I was just saying before, I feel the Rockets in 2018 should have won the NBA championship if Chris Paul does not get hurt. They beat the Warriors and they beat the Cavaliers probably in the finals. So, look, you can never count them out. You can never even. I know James Harden's getting up there in age, but I like the Sixers. But obviously the Celtics are no joke. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, all of those guys. I mean, it's going to be another deep series, another fun series to watch.
You can go first, Chris.
Right, and I think yesterday with the Celtics game, I mean Jason Tatum didn't play very. He played 19 minutes, only dropped 7 points, but they still put together a team effort, right? Highlighted mostly by Jaylen Brown and Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, and Malcolm Brogdon's been fairly solid overall.
1-6, man.
Right, and 6 minutes, right? Yeah, he's been even better in the playoffs. He's been great for them in the playoffs too. Yeah, and it's shocking, right? The last game they had Jason Tatum drop 40 almost, and they still lost. So I mean, it's I think that's exactly how this series is going to go. It's right. It's 2 of the most talented teams in the Eastern Conference, I think, and obviously right at the moment, and I feel like I'm saying this every series. It could go 7. I mean, it's just all these series.
It's just the way it is this year.
Great matchups, phenomenal matchups all around.
So I think we might as well just head to the NFL draft next. Before we go into that, big appreciation for everyone who was able to watch our stream, our NFL draft streams live or watch them back a little bit. We got over 200 plus views total. We had at one point 10 plus live viewers, which may not seem like a lot, but overall, that's a lot for a small show like us. So right now, I mean, it was a great time. We had great guests, Wooly, the college football fanatic, and Christian. It was awesome to have them all here. Shout out to all of them for joining us. on last Thursday. We all had a phenomenal time. It sucked that the draft went 5 hours. That was the only negative. I mean, the draft went 4 hours, and we were on stream for 5. It was awesome to just be able to do it, like freshmen being able to do that type of stuff. I don't really think WIR has really had anything like that before. But shout out to Cam, the president, and the whole WIRE board for letting us do it. It was an awesome experience, and hopefully we get to do it next year. But let's dive into the draft. I think we might as well start with the Giants picks. We got the 2 Giants fans in the room. What were your thoughts on the Giants draft, their first round pick, and just their draft as a whole?
Well, I think the main thing is what they did right away is they addressed the major needs. We saw first round getting Deontay Banks. You need a number 2 corner because, I like Fabian Moreau. I mean, Aaron Robinson, we really haven't seen a lot yet. Same for Darnay Holmes. But I think you need a number 2 guy. And if everything goes well, Deontay Banks should go in there. He's a great fit in Wink Martindale's system. He's kind of more of a man press guy. So obviously, Wink Martindale's blitz heavy defense will fit in just almost seamlessly there. So I think Deontay Banks is a good pick. Going into the second round, John Michael Schmitz, loved that pick for the Giants. You needed an interior lineman because, I mean, right now we're looking at, before that trade happened, we're maybe looking at Shane Lemieux, Ben Breederson, Mark Lewinsky. I think Lewinsky's fine, but I think we need the center and a real center. So getting John Michael Schmitz in there definitely should contribute right away, be the starting center from day one. Third round, getting Jalen Hyatt. I like that pick as well because, he has he's 6 foot, so he's not like he's a super small wide receiver. And, we saw his games in Tennessee against Alabama where he had 5 touchdowns. I think it was like 250 yards, something along those lines. Really big speed guy, so maybe he can kind of, fill in the role of kind of what Darius Slayton was, but hopefully we don't see as many drops. But, I mean, the first couple rounds, overall, very solid work. I can't really comment too much on the later round picks because those guys really don't contribute right away. But overall, I think that Joe Shane addressed the needs that he needed to. And I can't say I'm that mad about it. I mean, really with this regime now, the good thing is we can just trust what they're doing. So I trust in Brian Dable. I trust in Joe Shane. And I'm excited to see what mainly Deontay Banks, John Michael Schmitz, and Jalen Hyatt can do for this Giants team.
Right, and I think that's all you can ask for from a draft is, using those first, second round picks to help your team. Of course, we needed a receiver. And another, Deontay Banks is going to prove to be very important for this team come next season. And yeah, I mean, I thought it was overall a pretty successful draft. No, weird picks, right? Addressing the needs that you needed to address. And I mean, we'll see what the Giants do from here.
Just wanted to say real quick, we'll talk about the Dexter Lawrence contract extension because I just broke today. Dexter Lawrence signing a 4-year, $90 million contract extension, and he was asking for it, and he got it. And look, I mean, you kind of have to do it because we see defensive tackles get paid a lot. This makes him now the 3rd highest paid defensive tackle. That's fairly reasonable because last season, I'd say he probably played like the 3rd best defensive tackle in football. Really was kind of the presence on this defense that helped it really come into its own. And if you remember correctly, he was the first round pick we got from Cleveland in the Odell Beckham Jr. trade. That turned into Dexter Lawrence. So, I mean, I think as the days go by, I think that trade for Odell is actually looking better. I mean, believe it or not, Dave Gettleman might have made a solid trade. I mean, that's kind of crazy to think about. But Dexter Lawrence getting that contract extension. I know, Rob, you're still waiting on Quentin Williams to see what happens there. But, I think the guy had to get paid. He's the guy who's going to be a big part of the defense for a lot of years going forward. So happy he got it.
Robbie, I want to ask you, what can you give us your actual thoughts on the Aaron Rodgers trade?
Because I don't think we ever actually had you say it since he got signed. How do I go for it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Aaron Rodgers trade.
Here we go.
I thought I'd talk about it during the draft, but I'll just talk about it now. I think the problem I have with the trade as a whole was we traded that next year for possible first round pick. I think that's the only issue I have with it. Okay. Conditional, but I think it's going to turn into a first round pick because of like where it's at and how Rodgers is going to play. Right now, I think the Jets made the move. They wanted a quarterback. They want to replace Zach Wilson for at least a year, maybe have Rodgers help develop Zach Wilson in a way.
And I don't think they wanted to. I think they
needed to. Needed to is a better way to put it. I mean, I think it took forever. But as we've known trades in the past, Joe Douglas does not want to move first round picks, and it's very respectable. But I think it's a move they needed to make if you want to contend short term. I believe 9 of the top 10 QBs in a ranking I saw are from the AFC. That just proves how bad the NFC quarterbacks are. Not saying that like the NFC is bad, but like the AFC is just better. Yeah. But I'm not saying the NFC is bad. Yeah. I mean, you have Jalen Hurts and I don't know. What else is there?
I mean,
Dak Prescott. I don't know.
I mean,
Daniel
really,
Jones.
in the NFC, outside of Philadelphia and San Francisco, who are the teams you're looking at?
I mean,
then you start against like a Detroit.
I mean, if you want to go to a tier list, I put in like the S tier. I guess you put Philadelphia and San Francisco. Next year, I'd put Dallas in it. And I think Dallas, you go into a team like I think Minnesota, you can keep.
But then you start against like the Giants, even the Lions, and you start against those teams.
I don't know. I mean, I think I put Seattle in that contention as well. And then you go to the AFC, you have all 4 teams can make it out of the East. I think 2 teams are going to get out of the West. I don't know about Denver and Vegas. Vegas, I'm very skeptical about because I think Garoppolo's a horrible fit for them, but it does pair him back with McDaniels. So it's interesting to see how that connection is going to be. In the North, I think you got 3 possible 2.5. Let's go 2.5 contenders out of the North. My half team is going to be Pittsburgh. Reason being, they haven't been under 500 ever with Mike Tomlin. So with that logic, you would think that with a little bit of
a good draft too.
They had a phenomenal draft. I don't know why there's Mel Kiper gave them a B+. I thought that was disrespectful. I think, granted, there was the news that the Patriots traded down with the Steelers was just to be ahead of the Jets. Makes sense. But I think the Steelers had a phenomenal draft and really puts themselves. They're trying to make moves. They want to contend. And in the AFC North, that's gonna be a very tall ask. You have the Browns, who are gonna have a full season with Deshaun Watson. You have the Ravens, who just signed Lamar to that big extension on draft night. And you have Cincinnati, who has Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and that entire receiving core. They're a little bit weaker on the defensive side, but I think the draft helps them a little bit. I don't know. I think Cincinnati can maybe fall to Baltimore. I don't know. It's a very interesting division as well. The South's a mess for both conferences, I think, because I think Jacksonville's the only legitimate team. Only team I really see making like a possible move is Tennessee, but I don't know with Tannehill. That's the answer. I think Houston could be a dark horse to maybe do something, but I don't know. I think Houston may go possibly the deadline. Bold prediction. Houston tries to maybe make some moves. Because remember, they traded their own first-round pick. So they don't have their own first-round pick. They have the pick from the Browns. I feel like they could be making some moves in the offseason, possibly trying to help themselves out and maybe make themselves a push if the Jaguars are fading away. And then you look at the NFC. I'll just go into some of those teams about their drafts real quick. Before I go into the Jets draft specifically, NFC South mess. I think any of those teams can win the division. I am dead serious. Any team can win that division. And one team I'm going to highlight because they had a very disappointing draft to me was the Falcons. I think drafting Bijan was a mistake. You Tyler Algier, who ran for 1,000 yards. Screw him. You're going to go with freaking Bijan Robinson, who is phenomenal. And I think he's just as good. He will be just as good as Saquon Barkley. However, quarterback was the need that they didn't address. I think they could have drafted a quarterback later on in the draft. They didn't. So I think the Falcons, they're going to be a very interesting team to watch. I think the Panthers can actually do some stuff this year. Why is that? They have a real quarterback for the first time since Cam Newton. And with that and a decent defense, I feel like the Panthers can maybe make some noise this season. You want to talk about New Orleans? I mean, they got Derek Carr, who's better than everyone they had last year. But I don't know if that defense is going to be just as good as they've been in the past. I mean, their defensive line I still think is a mess. So right now I think the Saints can maybe make some noise, and then you go Tampa Bay. I don't know what's going on at the quarterback position. I thought they could have drafted. I thought Hendon Hooker would have been a perfect fit for them, and they didn't go for him. He went to the Lions. Why? I mean, Lions drafting a quarterback didn't make any sense to me. I'll explain that why in a second. Tampa Bay has quarterbacks. Your quarterback options are Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask, and who am I forgetting? I think it's just those two. Because I said the night before the draft, I said it was Trask, Hooker, and Mayfield if they drafted him. Going to the North, I think Minnesota still wins that division. I like the Lions. I think their secondary is overhyped like crazy. I mean, they have C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They added Brian Branch, who I think is a great scheme fit. But I think everyone's overhyping the rest of that secondary, which I think is possibly maybe controversial. I think Minnesota barely squeaks away with it. I think the Vikings, that's a too much talent wide receiver. They added a receiver in Jordan Addison, who I think fell a little bit lower. I mean, my mock, I had him at 15, went at 23. I mean, Jordan Addison, I think, is a phenomenal fit for that offense. And adding him with Jay Jettas, I think if Kirk Cousins can live to how good Kirk Cousins is, I think Minnesota can make some moves. Packers are going to fall off like crazy because, I mean, they have Christian Watson, and well, that's about it. And whatever run game they want to use, but they don't run the ball enough to really like show off their run game. Then the Bears, I think the Bears can maybe surprise some people this year with Justin Fields. I mean, he has some receivers to work with. I mean, they drafted an offensive tackle in Darnell Wright, But I still think the Bears are multiple pieces, especially on the defensive side of the ball, away from really making moves. And you want to go out to the West? Oh boy, I think 3 teams can win the West this year. My teams are. I think the Rams are going to bounce back. And I don't know about their defense. That's the part I'm skeptical about. I mean, they traded Jalen Ramsey for peanuts, probably to get rid of his contract. I mean, Matt Stafford, you hope he rebounds, but I'm not sure about the Rams. They actually have a first-round pick next year, which they haven't had in God knows how long at this point. You want to talk about a team that could really contend possibly for that division next year? What about Seattle? I mean, look what they did at the draft. They drafted Devin Witherspoon, who we were all shocked about because we thought they were going to go Jalen Carter. They didn't. And they went with Devin Witherspoon, who I think pairing him with Tariq Woolen, game-changing defense already. They drafted a running back. I don't know why. And Geno Smith, I still think is going to be a great quarterback for them. They added a wide receiver. I think Seattle had a good draft as well. And you can't mention this division without talking about freaking San Francisco. Am I right? I mean, San Francisco, I think, is the second best team in the NFC right now. I mean, the way they're loaded, they're just loaded. That's all I can say about the 49ers. They're a great team. I think they're going to be the 2 seed next year. And you want to go out to the NFC East. I think you guys can talk about the NFC East with me a little bit. You have Philadelphia, who I think they had the second best draft out of everyone.
You got a lot of Georgia players, right?
Yeah. I mean, you saw my clip. Like, I think someone made a meme about this. I literally sat right here and said they're all freaking Georgia players. And I'm not wrong.
No,
look how many Georgia players.
Not wrong about that.
Okay, so for context, they got 4 Georgia players in the span of under 72 hours. Why? I don't know. I mean, and you look at, they already have, I think they have multiple Georgia players before that.
A lot of Georgia players.
I mean, are they really like that interested in a national champion? I mean, it's worked before, but I don't know. But at the end of the day, I think the Eagles had a very good draft. You want to talk about another team that I think could make some moves? Dallas. I mean, Dak Prescott, he needs to do something. You need to prove to me you're worth the $40 million. I mean, inflation, he still hasn't done anything. I think this could be the year that he proves some people wrong. I think CeeDee Lamb's a phenomenal wide receiver. Michael Gallup's, I think, is going to have a bounce back. I think he's going to improve his talent very much there. Dallas, I think, is in that second tier of teams right now. And you want to talk about a team I think is in that second tier as well. You got to talk about the New York Giants. I think you also can talk about them as well. I mean, the Giants are a great team. They added, you mentioned Jalen Hyatt. I don't know if it's an improvement. My question is, will the Giants be as good if they added that piece? How much better are they actually? I mean, they're better on paper than last year. You added Darren Waller, another weapon, and Bobby Okereke, a linebacker. Great. I think that's a great signing for them. You drafted Banks. Great pick. I thought it could have been Joey Porter, but they went Deontay Banks. And I mean, you added Jalen Hyatt. I feel like that's all good move. I think Jalen Hyatt. Some were saying on Twitter, I thought this was hilarious. He was the new Denzel Mims for how far he fell. Remember that draft with Denzel Mims? He was projected to be an early second-round pick, early mid-second-round pick. He went late third to the Jets. That didn't work out very well. But I think this will be different. Jalen Hyatt. I mean, he was more notable than Denzel Mims for the reason that he went over 200 yards. It's Alabama. That alone is impressive. I think he had 5+ touchdowns as well. But that's ridiculous. And Washington, I don't know. But let's go to the Jets draft. Will McDonald first. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you want to talk about weird moves? Will McDonald being our first-round pick. I thought we should have traded down, personally. I think we had the room to trade it down, but we didn't. We went Will McDonald, trying to add more edge rushers. I don't know why we did it. I mean, I think we could have gone corner. I think Christian Gonzalez would have been a great – I mean, you're losing DJ Reed in a year or two. Why not go bigger and go with another guy who's also very scrappy in Christian Gonzalez? Joe Tippmann, I think, was our best pick of the draft. It's going to be. I mean, our center is Connor McGovern. He is mid as you can get. Giants and Jets drafting a center, I think, were 2 of the better picks that they had all draft. I think another interesting pick, I don't know why we did this either. We drafted a running back in the 5th round. I don't know why we did it, because we cut someone, and now we have 4 running backs again. Zaire Barnes was the only, I don't know. I mean, the Jets had a very interesting draft. I rated it a B-. I think that's kind of harsh, but I think it's time enough for hearing me talking. Who do you think had the best draft and why from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday?
So this may not maybe not answer your question entirely, but I really liked what the Seahawks did.
Okay.
I liked the receiver, right? Obviously, also got what's his name, Witherspoon, right?
Yeah, Devin
Yeah,
Witherspoon.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Like what they did, they're gonna have right. They got the quarterback, right? A lot of people, some people were questioning whether they're gonna draft a quarterback. They're gonna stick with Geno Smith at least for next year and the next couple of years.
I'm skeptical about it.
Right, but I think they did well getting the pieces around him. All right, and they also already had a guy like Metcalf, right, and some other pieces around them, and they're not done, I'm sure. But I really like what the Seahawks did, and I think they're really building around their team well after trading Russell Wilson. I like what they're doing over there personally. I don't know.
I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles because they are very evil. Now, getting Jalen Carter, the number 9 spot.
More Georgia players, baby.
More Georgia players. Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, 2 guys who were really steals at that position. Got to know. Obviously, they also got Kaylee Ringo from Philadelphia, another Georgia player.
I was going to mention as well.
Yep. So, obviously, really great draft for them. I mean, like, they needed it. Like, the team needed any more talent, but they got it. Philadelphia is still going to be the best team in the NFC next year. I'm very just hoping they take it a little bit easier on the Giants because we saw those games were pretty much blowouts. Maybe the Giants can do better, but that's still yet to be seen. But looking up here, we're 55 minutes in. I think that we should end off the show.
I want to say my pick.
Before we go to the announcements. My team in the best draft, I'm going with Pittsburgh. I love the pick of Broderick Jones. I think it's a great scheme fit for them, a tackle. They got Joey Porter Jr. in the second round. I think that's a steal and a half. That alone gives you a good draft. They got depth in the later rounds of the draft. I think they had arguably one of the better drafts. I mean, Philadelphia was my original top dog, but I'll go with the other team in Pennsylvania. But some announcements. Do you want to say? I'll start on mine first. Before Colin dives into maybe possibly something more. Of course, this is our last episode of season 1. Appreciate everyone who's followed the journey that we've had for 24 episodes and that giant stream last week. But the summer is coming and we want to do more content. I'm running my own solo YouTube channel. It's called the Robbie Basil Show. It's gonna be going on Mondays and Fridays. Of course, I'm gonna be on it. I'll bring these two on. We're gonna have other guests joining throughout the series. It's gonna start next Monday. There's a whole new YouTube channel for it. If you follow me, it's gonna be in my Instagram post I just posted right before we started today. So yeah, you can check that out. Mondays and Fridays. Post time's gonna be probably like here around like 4 or 5-ish again, probably. But I'm really excited to start the project. This has been in the works for 3 months almost now. I know I've wanted to start my own project along with still working with these guys. But Colin, I think you should do the second announcement. Might as well get you a little involved.
So, obviously, we're not going to be in the studio again until probably September of this year. So, obviously, there's going to be no Into the Stands in here, but we've kind of decided that we're going to start an Into the Stands YouTube channel where we can kind of continue these shows in the format, do a couple over the summer, talk about the big stories, obviously, in the MLB, NBA, NFL. So, looking forward to doing that with you guys. And, I guess here before we end off, just kind of want to talk about this year. I still remember our first episode. I remember we were actually sitting over there. It was kind of a bad setup.
It was a mess.
We got a little bit more worked out as the year went on, but I just want to say it's been really fun doing it with you guys here.
God.
Obviously, me and Chris have had experience doing it for a few years. This is my first time working with you, Robbie. It's been a fun ride. Got some great moments as well. You know, you kind of did a post where you showed the highlights we had.
Takes of the year. I mean,
the takes of the year that I said, it was mine with Iona. Colin's back from October was his take of the year. And the reason I picked Colin's take of the year was for how notable it was, because I think someone made a meme about it as well. My reaction and everyone's reaction to it. I think Colin's take with Philadelphia. And then I got to remember what Chris's was.
Cubs.
It was the Cubs.
You chose the Cubs.
Yeah, it was the Cubs because of how funny it was and how good it looks so far with the Cubs being pretty solid. Right. But, I mean, if you remember all the way back in September, we had that WIUR meeting. And I literally went up to you guys because it looked like you guys were doing a show together. And I asked if I could come out and work with you guys. And you guys were all for it. And like Colin said, we were right back there. And this the development as a group that we've had has been, I couldn't have asked for anything better. I mean, it was so much fun. Like the chemistry we have and how much energy and passion we have doing this stuff, I think is debatably one of the best on the entire channel. I mean, you could talk about Woolies and energy, but I mean, the passion we've had. I mean, we just had that argument about the Knicks. We've had multiple other arguments, notably Zach Wilson, back a couple of weeks ago. But it's been incredible journey that we've had so far. And I'm really excited to continue with you guys throughout the summer for sure.
Yeah, just wanted to finish off saying what I was going with there. Obviously, like I said, working with Chris before, but, working with Robbie now, it's been a fun dynamic. Looking forward to, probably coming back doing it next year in September. We'll see what happens over the summer with the YouTube channel. But Chris, take it away with your last words.
I don't really have much to say. You guys really covered it. It's been a fun year doing this. I've learned a lot about, obviously, I've been doing podcasts for a few years in the high school, but obviously continuing to do more and get used to the technology. And, we've had some great episodes, some good moments on the show. And yeah, we'll hopefully be back here next year.
So I guess that pretty much sums it up. So I'll wrap it up for today. So for me, Chris, and Robbie, this has been Into the Stands Season 1. Thank you all for following us throughout the entire ride, and we'll see you next year. Have a great summer.